Hello.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's good. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I know it's early for you, so I really appreciate it.
It's all good. My kid was up like a half hour ago anyway, so it's pretty standard stuff these days.
It's got to be tough though, coming back from Europe and trying to get used to what you were doing over there, and then now having to wake back up and sort of get accustomed to doing that again.
Yeah, the contrast I think between like home life and touring life always it's always super jarring at first. I feel like it's the opposite direction too. Like whenever we jump into tour, I'm just kind of like Jesus, and then it becomes routine, and then I come home, and that's just the never-ending cycle of life for the last few years.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking a few minutes. Like I said, I know it's early for you, and I know you just got back from Europe, but it's got to feel good to be back home for at least a few weeks before you start this headlining run.
It does, yeah. Especially Europe, just because Europe is it's just with the time change and the I don't know, yeah. It's a lot. European touring is like a whole other beast than touring stateside, especially as support, because it feels like sometimes you're still trying to like win over an audience if you're not headlining. And we're really excited to headline just because the shows are longer. It's a little bit more grueling on us, like performance wise, but it feels so much more rewarding because it's just like it's your crowds. They're there to see you. So we're really stoked to play in May for sure.
I know Ramon wasn't able to join you guys on the Motionless run overseas. He's the second longest tenured member of the band besides yourself. How weird was it not having him there with you guys? But also, how good did it feel to know that you had somebody that could step in so you didn't have to miss these shows?
It was strange. It's funny because our guitar tech Devin filled in for Ramon on bass, and he did a great job. But it was interesting that we didn't have a fill-in that was an entirely different person, because it wasn't even like we introduced a new energy into the camp for a month. It was just kind of like Ramon was taken away, and then Devin's always there, so we were kind of just like, damn, it just feels like we're missing somebody like all the time. But no, I just saw Ramon a few days ago, and yeah, I was honest. I was like, yeah, touring without you is weird. It doesn't feel the same. And I feel like Ramon has a very cool like kind of aura and stage presence when he plays. So I feel like our live show probably felt a little different if you were watching it. But like I said, I think Devin did so well, but I'm excited to have Ramon back out there. And I feel like it was super necessary just for Ramon to be able to be home with his family, just because his twins were just born and they were so young. It didn't seem feasible to have him jump into a tour like almost right after his kids were born.
You talked about being on the road with Ramon so much, and it might come as a surprise to especially people that are hearing you on the radio first time for the first time. Maybe they hear "Pale Moonlight" or "Crawl Back to My Coffin." That just because your songs are getting on the radio now, you're not a new band. You guys have been hustling for years and years and years. Where you find yourself now isn't some overnight success though. Like you guys have been hustling for a long time.
Yeah, it is. It is funny. Like, I know Adam. He's a singer of 3 Days Grace, and we just like recently connected. And he's super nice. And I've been listening to 3 Days Grace for like 20 years. But yeah, he was on some radio interview just like this, and he was like, yeah, if we could bring out like a fresh, new, young band. And I was like, we're definitely not young. And I don't know if I'd say we're new, but I understand what he means. It's like new is in the sense I think we're just barely starting to get our flowers, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely been touring since 2012, I think. And, I don't think we really started seeing any real trajectory or like real success, I think, until 2019. So, it was a good like 7 or 8 years of touring, kind of just taking whatever tour we could get, playing to very few people on a nightly basis. And even I think when we just started to get trajectory, it was like COVID hit, and then we didn't get to tour until late 2021 again. And that was the first, I think, moment of I think our record Sleep Talk at the time, it had a moment to sit for a while during the pandemic. And then that was kind of interesting because we were starting to see like some effects of it. And then I think people sat with the record for like a year and a half. And then when we came back to touring after the pandemic ended, it was like, whoa, there's a different thing going on now. It feels like we actually have fans and people who like care about our music. So, but you are right. Yeah, we have been doing this a very, very long time for sure.
And now here we are, sixth studio album. Creature in the Black Night debuted on the Billboard 200 when it was released. That has to be an incredible feeling, whether a band has been touring for a long time that maybe is just now, as you said, getting their flowers, or any band. I mean, to have an album, especially in 2026, debut in the Billboard Top 200 is pretty incredible.
I will take it. Yeah, yeah. I feel like every album we've put out, it's always kind of another jump up in terms of like streaming and our first week numbers. Because I forgot what our last record, Dark Sun, did, but I think our label said that our new album like doubled it in streams in our first week, and we feel very lucky because it's scary to kind of keep putting out new music year after year, and just kind of hope that people keep liking it, keep enjoying it. It feels like I have friends in bands where it feels like everybody will kind of get like their 15 seconds of fame, and then yeah, I have friends in bands who I feel like they were at the top of the scene at some point, and they put out one album that's like maybe not quite what the general public was expecting, and then it feels like they can fall off really fast. I feel like thankfully we found a formula that works really well for us, and we're really happy with our producer that we work with. But it's interesting. We've been like floating around different ideas for our next record, even though that won't be for a very long time. But yeah, we've kind of just been thinking about like maybe we do something really different. Maybe it's less like, pop driven like all of our other stuff is. But I don't know. We're definitely a band, I think, where we like to put out a record and let it kind of sit and marinate for a second. God bless those bands who, they'll put out an album every year. We're not that band.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this album specifically, and you've talked about it in other interviews, that this album both musically and thematically is a little bit different with sort of the overarching themes, even though it's not a concept record. Is there a conscious effort, with this being the sixth one, with the fans growing, the numbers growing, the streams growing, was there this conscious effort to sort of maybe try some different stuff this time around?
Yeah, I think honestly, I'd say yes and no. I do feel like when we go into the studio, we kind of just write what we want to write. I feel like when we did our previous record, Dark Sun, my dad had just passed away from cancer. And so it's funny because we ended up finishing that record. And I remember listening to the whole thing and kind of going like, oh man, it's kind of slow on the back half. Like it really does feel like more of an alt rock record and not really like a post-hardcore or like metal record. I think I screamed on like two songs on that whole album. And but I looked at where I was at the time, and I remember going into the studio, and it was hard to, show up for work and be like, let's write like an upbeat rock banger. I think I was grieving at the time, and I'm super proud of that record. But it was interesting going into this recording process and feeling like I had enough time to kind of like process my grief. And a lot of the records just written about my own life and personal relationships that I've been going through for the last couple of years, and kind of like what I feel like how I've had to navigate my life since the band has gotten a little bit more successful. And I don't know, I think it was interesting seeing our peers in bands like Spirit Box or Sleep Token, and just kind of seeing like, because it felt like the formula for a while is that you had to dumb down your music, eliminate all of the screaming, and that was like the only way to get popular. And yeah, you just see bands like Knocked Loose or Kublai Khan. It's like they're super screaming forward, and they're some of the biggest bands in rock right now. So I think going into this record, we kept in mind like, oh, cool, we can kind of do whatever we would like to do, and I think as long as the music is authentic and honest, I think people will listen and give it a chance. So I wouldn't say that we were too I don't know, too like careful to listen to what the audience wanted, but I think it was interesting seeing that other people could find success with like less common writing strategies. So we tried to embrace that, but I think it's always an honest set of songs to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and thematically, I mean, you've talked a lot about this album, The Creature in the Black Knight. Obviously, the cover art has the Reaper figure, and the songs seem to have a little bit of a darker theme. Was there a plan to sort of, again, not a concept record, but it feels like everything's sort of intertwined. Even when you talk about the visualizers, there's a casket, there's a gravesite, like everything. And I appreciate that when everything is sort of molded together as one sort of idea, even if it's not a full blown concept. Everything is sort of intertwined. As you're writing these songs and you realize that there's almost sort of a common theme, do you start to think, okay, let's go in this direction with sort of everything?
Yeah, it's funny. I think Pale Moonlight and Creature in the Black Knight were like the two very first songs that we wrote for the record, and it felt like they definitely had a particular very like dark and kind of creepy vibe, and we kind of fell into it on accident, but we were using this like filtered talking voice for a few parts in those songs, and we got ahead of our release schedule by a lot, and we had our graphic designers start putting together some artwork pieces, and his name's Ryan, and yeah, Ryan sent over a bunch of different samples, and yeah, one of them had the it was the pale moonlight artwork of this like Reaper figure, kind of sitting with this kind of like moonlight behind him, and I don't know why it was a very like dark and eerie kind of vibe. And I remember thinking that might be the cover for the album, and then eventually we started incorporating the Reaper into pretty much everything visually, and then he came out with it was like the more bright orange and purple kind of vibe, and I liked the juxtaposition of the album cover being super kind of bright with the Reaper in it, even though the album is like pretty dark overall. But it's funny because we did the record in two chunks, and I remember doing the first half and being like, yeah, there's definitely a vibe here. And it's funny because when we did the first half, we had a song that I still really enjoy the song, but we actually cut it from the record because it felt more like 80s synth pop, like it should have been on maybe our record before this one. And so it was interesting that yeah, we kind of created a certain vibe and certain energy when we were making all these songs. And it's funny that yeah, we had another song that I thought was great, but it was very much like this does not fit at all with what we've been doing thematically for the rest of the record. And so I don't know, I'm proud of it though, in the sense that I feel like if you listen to this record from front to back, it kind of feels like it's all meant to be listened together, and it's like one cohesive piece of work front to back.
You mentioned the song that was cut. You're sort of teasing a deluxe edition of this album. What are the chances that that song that got the boot, the 80s synth, what are the chances that might pop up on the deluxe?
I don't think it's going to. I've never really been into the idea of like bands who put out deluxes and they're like, here's the whatever tracks that we made that we didn't think were good enough for the record. I feel like uh, we've talked about like maybe trying to rework it in a way for a future release, or we've talked about maybe like trying to um, collaborate that track with like an EDM artist or something. I feel like there's still a way to use it. It just wasn't on this record. I don't know if I'm super into the idea of just throwing it on a deluxe for the sake of it, but we're definitely talking about doing a deluxe. But I think it'll be a little more interesting and kind of cool for some of the ideas we have.
And it's got to be cool to be in a position now to be able to reward fans with the even the idea of a deluxe album.
Yeah, I think we've always kind of tried to do that. I think it gives them like it kind of keeps them fed for a little bit longer while we're on the interim of working on a new record. And I think it's a lot of these songs. I mean, they are I think just they're pop songs, with heavy guitars over them, and so a lot of times I feel like they do translate pretty well in a more like mellow or simple kind of setting. So, but yeah, we're talking about putting together a deluxe right now, and there's a lot of cool ideas on the table of how we can do things a little bit differently than we've ever done them before. So I'm excited to get to work on that.
We talked a little bit earlier about you wrapping up the run with Motionless over the UK and Europe, and that you're coming back to the States for a headline run. You played a couple of shows here after the album's been released, but how excited are you? Get Ramon back, get out, name on the marquee at the top, headline shows, and play these songs for the fans in the US.
We're very stoked. We're adding like new stuff into the set from the new album that we've never played before. I think the whole tour is like it's like 94% sold out. I think there's only a few thousand left like across the board, which is very cool. And yeah, I mean, it's like I said, headlining is definitely a harder kind of style of touring, but it's definitely just so much more rewarding. And I don't know, I'm proud that I feel like we have a good atmosphere and a good energy at our shows. I feel like our crowds are always just so like they're just full of good people, and they care enough to support all like the newer bands, you know, who are playing before us, and then they show up and they're the best for us whenever we play. So we're coming off like yeah, doing 5 weeks in Europe. We had a lot of fun with Motionless, and I think those tours we always try and look at. Hopefully, we grabbed a bunch of new fans from playing for some people who maybe never heard of us before. But yeah, there's some nights where you're playing for a crowd and they're like, I don't know about you yet, and then by the end of the show, they're like, okay, I get it, I like your band now. But it's yeah, it's we call them like humility tours. It's like it like it like gives you peace of mind, like, oh, you're not the biggest band in the world. You still have to, you know, you still have to grind, you still have to work for it, and if you want like new fans and new people to listen to your music. But yeah, we're stoked to headline, stoked to have Ramon back out. It's going to be a really really good tour.
Yeah, if those are the humility dates, then knowing that 94% of the headline tour is sold out has got to be like the ego boost you need.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they're not arenas, you know, but it still is cool. Even playing to like a 2 or 3 thousand people a night, it still feels like very, very cool. So
And
I'll
it's got to
take
be
it.
awesome for your contemporaries, bands that you've toured with. Pierce the Veil selling out their home stadium in San Diego. Bill Murray doing big shows. Sleep Token and Bad Omens are selling out in arenas. Now you guys are playing these headline shows with thousands of people. To see all of you guys have this success at the same time has got to be that's pretty awesome, man.
It is, yeah. Like I said, it didn't feel like it was possible for bands like in our genre. I don't know. I didn't think bands got to play like stadiums and stuff. And I think at least like in the emo scene kind of phase, you know. So I feel really lucky that we get to do that for sure.
Well, we're excited to have you coming to Grand Rapids on the headline tour here in a couple of weeks, and obviously, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you guys are going to be busy the rest of 2026.
Um, you know what's funny is that we have a really long gap after May. It was kind of unintentionally planned, but I'm having another kid in August, and so it'll give me time to be home, to be present and be here for the birth, and then I'll get to be home for a couple months. But we have some more touring that we're doing towards the end of the year that we haven't announced yet, and so yeah, I'm just gonna because it does feel like we've been kind of going nonstop for a while. So I'm gonna enjoy this little break after May, get to be with my kids, and then it hits pretty hard from the end of the year until like the middle of next year. So, but it's gonna be good, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're excited for you. I'm excited for you. I've done this for a long time. I hear songs all the time. When I heard Crawl Back to My Coffin for the first time, dude, I remember texting, I think the guy you're talking to next and saying, have you heard this yet? This song is incredible. It was one of those first listens as a radio dude that you don't get very often anymore. That song is awesome and the album's incredible. So excited for you guys, man, and excited to get the chance to talk to you today.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate your time. I'm happy you like the song. We're super proud of it.
For sure, man. Well, we'll see you in Grand Rapids here in a little bit.
Cool. See you,
Cool.
buddy.
Awesome. Thanks, Roy. See you, dude.